Comedy Store. He watches me in the audience. He comes backstage. He tells me what a great job I did and how much he loves the joke. 2 years later, he's doing that as his last joke on
anything. That's a regret I have. I really shouldn't have said nothing, cause we not in the same league.
And because you finally did it, because you didn't have no other choice, and now that he gone, you gonna act like he wanted to be a movie star. You stop it.
That's kind of like hate and jealousy. And hate and jealousy is a form of grief.
You all know Steve Harvey. He's a huge comedy star from Kings of Comedy who now has his own TV shows and gives advice. He's a very famous guy. But according to Katt Williams, there's another side to Steve Harvey that people don't know about. And Katt says it's really bad. In this video, Katt tells the whole story. He isn't just being mean for no reason. He is saying some very serious things. He says Steve Harvey is not just a comedy legend. He says Steve is a fake person who has been doing things the wrong way his whole career. So, what did Katt say? Why is he talking about Steve Harvey now? And is any of this actually true? Let's talk about it.
Just because a person sits on the show and don't hesitate or say or and speaks eloquently, that don't mean it's true.
Katt Williams has always said exactly what he thinks. In his comedy shows and in his talks, he always speaks his mind. He is never scared to say when something is wrong. And this time, he is talking about Steve Harvey.
Supposed to go last is because it was your tour. Tell the truth. It was Steve's tour.
People have known for a long time that Katt and Steve don't get along. They have had problems before. The biggest one was when Katt said Steve stole jokes from other comedians, like Mark Curry. Katt said Steve became famous by using other people's work, and he said it out loud for everyone to hear.
See, first of all, I ain't really good at social media, so I didn't even know that was out there.
But in this new video, Katt says even more. He says Steve Harvey is worse than people know. He says the nice, family-friendly guy you see on TV is not the real person. The real person, according to Katt, is a big hypocrite. So, what did Katt say that has everyone so interested? He starts by talking about Steve's success.
Said.
Okay.
And that was rough, man.
Let's be real, Steve Harvey is a very successful man. He is a star in comedy and on TV. He has won awards, written books, and has his own talk shows. But Katt says that success didn't just come from hard work. He says Steve became successful by learning how to work the system and by using other people.
Like really kiss most of the corners of my when a person sits on the show and don't hesitate or say or and speaks eloquently, that don't mean it's not in the same league, dog. We shooting at two different baskets. I shouldn't even have said nothing.
Katt says Steve built his career by becoming friends with people who could help him, even if he had to hurt other people to do it. That is a very strong thing to say, especially from a guy like Katt who doesn't like how Hollywood works.
That's how we got started. And it was rough, man, because it was just the three of us. Mm-hmm. And the first night we did it was a disaster.
But Katt says even more than that. He talks about how Steve acts like this positive role model. Steve gives speeches about how to be successful and work hard. But Katt says that while Steve is doing that, he is also doing sneaky things when no one is watching.
With you, Frankie, I didn't know nothing about this concept. When the promoter told me about it in October, I shot it down. Because that ain't how I've ever promoted it with some real monsters, man. I toured with the Kings. You know, I've been on stage with Sid, DL, and Bernie Mac. I had to say.
He says Steve's image as a good guy is just an act. It's like a mask that hides the real Steve Harvey. Katt says the real Steve cares more about being famous and having power than about being an honest person.
Pull out shows. So I took cash that night. Because I'm going to go across the border to the casinos in Canada. I'm going to gamble. We in the limo, me and Sid, we going across the thing. Border Patrol say, "Who are you guys?"
Okay, let's be clear. This isn't the first time Katt has talked about Steve. We all remember the old stories about Steve stealing jokes. But this new video is different. Katt is going much further. He isn't just saying Steve is a bad comic. He is saying Steve is a bad person. What he says next is more personal. Katt claims Steve has a habit of using people. He says Steve gets close to people who can help him, and then he drops them when he's done. That's a serious thing to say. It makes Steve sound like someone who doesn't want anyone else to be as successful as he is. Katt believes this is the true story of Steve's fame. He says Steve got to the top in Hollywood by making friends with powerful people. Katt says Steve's success didn't happen naturally. It was all about who he knew. Katt thinks Steve's talent isn't what made him famous. He thinks Steve is just really good at playing a game. And Steve didn't just want to play, he wanted to be the one in charge. This is personal for Katt. He is clearly upset. For him, this is about the people Steve has hurt. He says Steve has betrayed and lied to people. It's bigger than stolen jokes. It's about using friends to climb up and then leaving them behind. Katt even says some of Steve's old coworkers have been hurt. Then, Katt makes his biggest claim. He says Steve has been hiding his real self from the public. The Steve Harvey you see on TV, the nice family man and motivational speaker, is just an act. Katt says it's a mask. He says the real Steve is a ruthless person who will do anything to stay on top. Katt says Steve is so focused on controlling his career that he's willing to hurt anyone, even old friends and partners. So, what does this all mean? Is Steve really that bad? Well, Katt has made his choice. He thinks telling the truth is more important than keeping Hollywood secrets. He wants to show the ugly side of fame, the lies and the betrayal that happened behind the scenes. Katt isn't the only one who thinks this. A lot of people believe the world of comedy and TV isn't as nice as it seems. They think even the biggest stars might have a dark side. As for Steve Harvey, he hasn't said anything about Katt's new video. But he's been through drama before and always comes out okay. We don't know if he'll respond or just ignore it. One thing is sure, Katt has gotten everyone in Hollywood talking again. This fight between him and Steve is getting more serious. Who is telling the truth? Who is playing games? And who will win this argument? Stay tuned. Because in comedy, it's not just about the jokes. It's also about the secret fights for power that happen offstage. Other people have seen this too. For years, fans and other comedians have talked about Steve's actions. They've seen how he makes enemies and ends friendships without apologizing. But for Katt, it's not just about how Steve got famous. It's about what he does to stay there and make sure no one takes his place. Think about Steve's career. He wasn't always a huge star. He started in comedy clubs, just like Katt, trying to get noticed. But then, Steve met the right people. He got on TV, wrote books, and hosted a famous show. As he became more successful, people started to wonder how he did it, especially as he joined Hollywood's most powerful circles. Katt's main point is that Steve didn't just use hard work. He used people. Katt says Steve became famous because of his connections, not because he was the most talented. He says Steve got powerful jobs by knowing the right people, even if there were funnier comedians around. That's the story Katt is telling. He says Steve's power comes from manipulating others, not from his comedy skills. So, what does this mean for comedy? Katt's words are important because they talk about something people have whispered about for a long time. Comedy isn't just about being funny now. It's about power, control, and your reputation. Katt, who's been in the business for years, is saying that Steve built his career on manipulation. For Katt, it's not about the nice guy on TV. It's about what Steve does when no one is watching. He says Steve uses his public image as a cover. In private, Katt claims, Steve makes deals and pushes out people who don't help his image. It's like the good guy is getting away with everything. And Katt isn't the only comedian to say this. Others like Monique, Dave Chappelle, and Kevin Hart have also said that Hollywood uses comedians and then drops them. They've all talked about how powerful people like Steve can control the story. Katt is just the latest to speak up. But what makes Katt different is how he links Steve's behavior to a bigger issue in comedy. He says people in power can crush their competition, silence other voices, and control what we all see and hear. Katt says Steve isn't just playing the game, he's cheating to make sure he always wins. Here's the thing, when Katt talks, people listen. He always says what he thinks, no matter what. And when he goes after someone as big as Steve Harvey, you have to pay attention. Because Katt isn't talking about small drama. He's talking about power. The power to control your own story. The power to decide who becomes a star. And the power to stop people like Katt from ever making it to the top. That, according to Katt, is who Steve Harvey is. Someone who used his power to get to the top and now uses it to keep others down. Now, here's the ironic part. Steve Harvey has built his brand on telling people how to succeed. He tells them how to be their best and speak it into existence. He's written books and given talks about how to live a good life. But to Katt, that's all a lie. Katt says Steve is the opposite of what he preaches. He says Steve isn't a real leader. He's just a guy who learned how to beat the system and is now cheating to stay there. That's what makes Katt the angriest. He thinks the people who are supposed to be honest, the ones who've struggled, are the ones telling the biggest lies. So, what's the main point? It's clear Katt isn't just being mean. He is trying to reveal a truth he thinks has been hidden for years. Steve Harvey might be a comedy legend, but behind his smile, Katt says he is a man who cares more about his power than about being a good person. And that is why Katt is speaking out. Because in the world of fame, it isn't always about talent. Sometimes, it's about who you know, what you're willing to do to stay famous, and who you're willing to hurt to get there. Katt isn't just calling out Steve Harvey. He is calling out the entire system.